make some wake-up juice.
Welcome back here. Hey, yo, X's and Bros on the Michigan Sports Network. That's Danny Caitlin, Ryan Elke. I'm Anthony Bellino. Join us now on the horn. The Concordia alum. Did his GA years under the John Beeline at the University of Michigan. Now an assistant coach at Ohio University for the Bobcats. Time for a little Barlow's buddies. Little Barlow ball. Kyle Barlow, the coach. Find him on Twitter. Kyle Barlow 4. Coach Barlow, good morning to you. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, man. Even better, playing some Kanye, some Good Morning. You know, that's a great song. Most programs would have canceled Kanye by now, but not X's and Bros, baby. We're going to roll with it. We're going to roll with the theme.
It takes a lot to get canceled on this program. That's cancel culture does not. I mean, I have Joe Mixon on my fantasy team, for God's sakes. That's neither here nor there. Coach Barlow, I'm coming in with a heater right off the bat because I know that you, in your studies, you are an analytical mind. You are one of those people that processes the data in real time with what he sees, having a feel for the game, but a feel for the percentages, all while it's happening in the moment in college hoops. What if I said that every point, and I've thought about this last night, is Jalen Pickett was just going off for Penn State. Guy couldn't miss, right? The hoop looked like Lake Erie to this kid from Penn State last night. I looked over to their SID. I said, what's his career high? And he was like, well, he's a transfer, so he had 40 at his previous stop, but his Penn State career high was like 24, 26 or something like that. He hit 26 last night. Guy was just filling it up. What if I told you or said that 1 point in the college game is the equivalent of about a point and a half at the professional level?
Yeah, I kind of see what you're getting at. I think when you talk about things like that, because you're talking about, you know, you're seeing games in the 120s and, you know, in pros routinely, right? And it doesn't diminish what any college kid is doing just because your team's not hitting 120. So there's the obvious time, like you got 48 minutes in the NBA, 40 in college, and then you got the tempo where there's a 30-second shot clock as opposed to a 24, which is a big difference. But yeah, I like it. I don't think 1.5. I would say probably 1.25 for threes and 1.33 for twos to kind of get to where what you're thinking, because 1.5 is a lot. You know, it's like when you play pickup and you play, hey, we're not playing twos and threes, we're playing ones and twos. Well, that places a lot more value on a three-pointer, right? Because as opposed to being a third higher than a two, it's a half higher than a two. Right, so a double what a two is as opposed to 1.3. So it's you know, that was really nerdy, and we can go all nerdy on things. But you know, you and I were talking a little about analytics last night, just texting back and forth.
You sent me a book recommendation. Are we going to start a book club? Barlow's Buddies Book Club, a new NIL function and faction of Ohio basketball.
I love it, and I love the alliteration too. But the book that I'm reading and I read was called The Mid-Range Theory by Seth Partnow. And basically it goes to show why is the mid-range dead? Why are post-ups dead in the NBA? But, you know, you flip on the college game, you see a ton of mid-range. You see Kobe Buffkin and Duggan in the mid-range. You see, obviously, Hunter Dickinson posting up. I love that. Who's that wing who kept posting up Michigan? It was great. He just kept burying guys under the basket. I love that style of basketball. But anyways, it goes into why you don't see that in the NBA anymore. And there was one chapter specifically about Russell Westbrook and how he averaged a triple-double and the significance of that. Well, it goes to show, like, there's a lot of things. Like, he was trying to average a triple-double that year. And one of the big things that the author said was when the target or when the goal becomes the target, then it ceases to have as much value. So basically, like, are you really impacting the game by getting those 10 rebounds because you're trying to go out there and hunt rebounds? And he did, and he, you know, provided the analytics. Like, there's a guy like, who's the guy with the nets, a big floppy hair, shoots it in the corner, played with the Bucks, Lopez was getting maybe 5 rebounds a game that year, but 4 of them were out of area rebounds. Where like 8 of the 10 of Russell Westbrook's were always uncontested rebounds. So basically uncontested by the opponent and uncontested by your teammate because they know that you're trying to get the rebound. So it's very, very – so he's like, is that impacting winning or are you just chasing stats? So it's like when the goal to get a triple-double becomes the target, then it's like, what's the goal of basketball?
Oh, this guy. I mean,
right? The goal is to win the game.
Goals to win. We play to win the game. I feel vilified right now. The whole time that was happening, you know how many arguments I got in and said this is useless? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, when you have a guy shooting a free throw and you allow your guard to waltz in there and take the rebound to earn the triple-double, and we all know how stats are kept, right? We all know that, yeah, could that have been an assist? I don't know. Well, we'll give it to him because it's Russ and he's hunting the triple-double. Like, and there's no one, it's somebody who works in this game. You can't tell me that that doesn't happen. It absolutely happens. Like, it's preposterous to me that anybody would argue me on that. I thought that the Russell Westbrook's years of hunting the triple-double were some of the most meaningless stat padding efforts we have ever seen in the NBA. I discredit it. That's why I don't care about it.
Yeah. And again, like, so the goal when you play basketball is to win the game. And a long time ago, somebody decided points, rebounds, assists, right? You know, the very shooting percentage, you know, a lot of these things. So it's like, hey, that helps you win the game. Like, if you have a guy out there who's drawing three defenders and passing to a wide open guy for a layup, that's helping you win the game, right? Not LeBron James. I mean, not to discredit LeBron, but you know, you have no shortage of Bron slander on this show, so I don't feel bad doing it. Not, hey, I'm going to dribble the ball for 22 out of the 24 seconds, kick it to the corner, and you better shoot it so I get an assist type deal. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
You know, a long time ago, we decided points, rebounds, and assists were this measure to measure how good a player is to help you win a game. But when that goal of getting a triple-double is your goal instead of winning the game is your goal, it loses value in those stats, right? I mean, does that make sense? It's a long way of trying to say that.
Yes, yeah. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
you are fascinating. You know our friend, a mutual friend of ours, Paul Helgren. He went to the University of Michigan. He is one of the sports information directors and associate athletic directors at the University of Toledo. So you and I both know him very well, worked with him for many years. He had a friend, I believe, that was in statistics at U of M. And his friend came up with this. I gotta ask him what this is, because when he explained it to me, it was based upon your points, your field goal attempts, and it was weighted with your three-point attempts. And it was like it turned out to be a plus minus. I got to figure out what that is. I'm gonna text Paul. I'm going to have him text it to me so I could put it out on the Twitter, and I'll tag you for it, because it was one of those things where if you looked in and he would be like, oh, so-and-so, it was like Juice Brown was a plus whatever. We would talk about it after the game because it was all weighted on how many points you had versus how many shots it took you to get those points. That's where we look at, like, efficiency, for example. Like, if you scored 20 points, that's great. If it took you 20 shots to get it, that's not efficient. That ain't great, Coach.
Right. Well, and you know, that's always a good, you know, when we see that in the box score, we say, no, that's not efficient. And it's a good way of looking at it. So it's like it took you 20 shots to score 20 points. Whereas, you know, maybe you score 20 points on 12 shots and you get to the free throw line, you know, you mix in assists, you know, a couple threes, but not jacking threes. So there's a lot of things. So I think what Paul might have been talking about was box score plus minus. There's a very interesting stat, especially over a season, box score plus minus, and we're really nerding it out on this show. So
BPM, baby. You want to talk a little VORP? Huh? You want to talk a little VORP here?
Some VORP. We got offensive rating, true shooting percentage, but effective field goal percentage is something that, like Ken Pom looks at. Ken Pomeroy has a website that most college basketball coaches use. So effective field goal percentage, which basically weights, you know, your 2-pointers versus 3-pointers, and it weights it a little bit in favor of, hey, if you miss a 3, it's not the same thing as missing a 2, because your potential to make that shot, like let's say both is even, you miss 1 3, you miss 1 2, you have to weight it towards the 3, because if you made it, then you were going to get 1 more point than that 2, so it's valuable to shoot a 3, but it shouldn't penalize you more because you could gain more. So there's a lot of things that go into it. And there, you know, Coach Beeline had a saying, and I love it, and I still use it today. But you know, you have all these analytics available. You have Synergy, you have Ken Pom, you have board-based ratings, you have box score plus minus, all the things we talk about, true shooting percentage, which mixes in free throws. And he used to always say, you can know anything you want, but you can't know everything you want. And just like practice, you can do anything you want. You just can't do everything you want. So that's where it's like, as a coach, you kind of got to narrow down what you value, what your head coach values, and what you're really going to work on and what you're really going to emphasize when it comes to all those statistics.
Wow. So take us in your mind. Then if you can't do everything, what do you want to do? Like if you could construct your own, I'm not saying your team, right? I'm not trying to dive into your playbook and see what you guys got going on or provide free scouting services here. If so, I'm gonna have to charge a little, make a little bound the back end here. But if you could assemble your perfect college basketball team and you can't do everything, what do you want to do then?
You know, one big thing I want to do if I'm assembling my perfect college basketball team is design a team that has 5 shooters on the floor who can all shoot the three to open the space and then basically shoot threes, free throws, and layups. I think is the most efficient 3 shots there is. Now, that being said, like Steve Kerr had a great quote after they played Game 7 against Houston. I don't know if you remember this. It was back in like 2018, 2017. But Houston was like absurd, like 3 of 39 from 3 in Game 7 or whatever, and they lost because they had the analytics, threes and layups, right? We don't shoot anything but threes and layups, Mike D'Antoni. And Steve Kerr's like, well, you know, they have all these analytics, but I just saw Steph Curry and Klay Thompson shoot mid-range after mid-range after mid-range and making them, and that's why we won the game. So, you know, that being said, there's a grain of salt you have to put on anything, but if you're looking at your most efficient shots, it's threes, layups, and free throws. So from an offensive standpoint, if you can have 5 guys on the floor who can shoot threes, like when I was just watching film and non-D1 was playing a Division I team, and they had this team scrambling around because they had 5 shooters on the floor, and it's just not what you're used to playing. Like when you play Hunter Dickinson, he can hit a 3, but if he's living out by the 3-point line, that's a win for your team because you don't want to see his big self on that block, right? So it's just funny when you see teams that have 5 guys that can shoot threes and the defense of coverages and how you can cover them, right? And the challenges that brings.
That's why you got to have a little drive, little kick, make the extra pass. Next thing you know, defense scrambling, wide open shots. Joey Baker, baby, Joey Baker. Love to see it.
Touch, driving kick. Yes,
yeah. Hey, you know what? I like the fact you brought up Kobe Buffkin there, too. We got a text from somebody said Kobe Buffkin needs some hype from people. Kid is a stud on both ends. Hustles his butt off. Was on the floor for loose balls 3 times last night. That 20-plus pounds has helped since last year for Kobe. Yeah, and it very much has. And he's got to be one of those guys that finds some consistency there for the University of Michigan. When you look at their loss to Central Michigan, how, like, obviously as a MAC participant, you kind of puff your chest up a little bit. That's a nice win for the conference as a whole. How do you explain that? And then if you are Juwan Howard and company, how do you look at that game and use that sort of as, like, I feel like that's kind of a make or break moment. Now they've made good on it since winning a couple of games and you know, building on some things, which has been nice. They look a lot more locked in defensively, which is huge. But how do you kind of make that a make or break moment for your team and really test their mettle?
Well, it's all about the response, right? And I think we saw the response, and that shows you a team that wants to be coached, that's willing to be coached, that still is together, that still has belief, because they came out and mollywopped Maryland, right? I mean, that was a football score. It was what, 24-3 at one point, something like that.
Gave them the business.
So it's like you're coming off of that loss, which, you know, you're a heavily favored team, probably a game you shouldn't lose. And, you know, I'm sure that there was a great productive film session where everybody was very calm and said very matter-of-factly what went wrong. And I think there was some very calm practices where, you know, very matter-of-factly business-like. They told them that they might have to sit down and maybe get in a stance and, you know, do some other things offensively. So, you know, it shows this character of that team and the character of that culture, the program, that they can respond the way they did. And I will say this too, and not have a letdown the next game. I thought Michigan played very tough last night. Penn State's a really good basketball team. They're very tough. They're very well coached. They got some good players. Like, I could have seen, hey, if you're a front-running team, you go out and, you know, you just got blasted for 2 days in practice and film, so you go out and take care of business against Maryland. But that shows the maturity on a Wednesday night to come back and beat a very good Penn State team on your home court.
And now they've got Breslin ball this Saturday, 2:30 against the Izzo kids. You've been on that staff. You know what that's like to walk into that facility as a member of the Maize and Blue. Can you describe what that is like to our listenership?
Look, it is by far the best environment because they have all the students in the lower bowl. It's the only arena that I know of that does that. That the entire ring of the lower bowl is all student section, and those students love that basketball game, and they love to get after and maybe get a little personal against Michigan people. And I wasn't even there when you had the troll, aka Hunter Dickinson, there. And they are gonna, oh man, are they gonna love that guy, especially after last year in Ann Arbor. Maybe talking a little bit to the head coach there at Michigan State, and I've seen some clips on Twitter and some interviews he's doing where he might be trolling a little bit. So man, that is gonna be heated, Bellino. I can tell you that right now. It's great for college basketball. It's gonna be a great environment. As long as nobody crosses the line, it's going to be awesome, man. It's going to be an awesome game to watch.
Stressful to play in. That much is for sure. Young Doug McBuckets, right? Doug McDaniel need McBuckets to step up here, and he's got that floater going. Sometimes he tried to float one from about 50 feet yesterday. Juwan said, it's a little too far, Doug. What are you doing out there, baby? That's what it sounded like, at least in my mind.
Does he give you a little bit of a J.J. McCarthy vibe? Like, it doesn't look like he gets shook. Like J.J. McCarthy goes down in Columbus, and he had every reason to be shook because that game was not going well for the first little bit. And, the defensive linemen were getting in his face after batting down balls. He just smiles. Doesn't Doug McBuckets, it looks like, he never missed a beat. When he went to the starting lineup, first game he has, 20 and 7 assists or something like that. Like, the kid, it doesn't look like he gets rattled like that. And you know what? And that's a great thing for Michigan fans because going into Michigan State, it could be very easy to get rattled in that atmosphere.
By the way, Paul Helgren texted me points minus field goal attempts plus a half for free throw attempts.
Boom.
So he said, I looked at Mitchell's game the other night, and if I recall, he shot a plus 26.5, which is historic. According to Steve Hall, the guy who first started using this over 30 years ago, the average for a winning team is plus 10. So if one guy could shoot plus 26, is literally carrying the team, which Mitchell obviously did. So, man, it's there you go.
I love those statistics. I think it nails it. Like, but you're trying to, when you have those analytics, you're trying to look deeper in value. Like Donovan Mitchell is 71. Like, do you think that impacted winning? Yeah, probably, right? So it's like, yeah, the plus 26 is historic, but those statistics are great when you have maybe a bench guy who's not getting, 40 minutes a game but comes in and impacts winning, and it's like, no, he only scored 4 points, but if you look at it, he's plus whatever, So I think it's really good for those types. But, yeah, Donovan Mitchell at 71, of course, or 70, whatever he had. Yeah, of course he impacted that game. That was great.
Yeah, big part of the total output there of offense. He's the coach, Kyle Barlow. Find him on Twitter at Kyle Barlow4. Send your kids recruiting tapes there. Coach Barlow, as always, my friend, thank you so much for nerding out with us here on a Thursday.
Yes, sir. See ya.